Good morning. Today we're going to shine our spotlight on two of Michigan's largest corporations and some of the philanthropic projects they're engaged in. We'll begin at our downtown studio inside the Chase Tower building with Lynette Dowler. She is president and CEO of the DTE Energy Foundation. And later, Pamela Alexander, director of community development for the Ford Motor Company Fund. She'll give us the scoop on an important anniversary coming up. It's Mother's Day, May the 13th. I'm Chuck Stokes, and this is Spotlight. First time on Spotlight.
First time.
We good. Let me ask you, you have been at DTE Energy for 34 some odd years, so you're not a rookie, you're not a newcomer to there, but new to this particular position. How much has what you've done before prepared you for the role that you're in now, where people ask, gimme, gimme, gimme all the time?
Yeah, you know, I think that throughout my career, I've done a lot of work with operations, a lot of work managing budgets, significant budgets, and really figuring out how to bring all the best things together to make the best impact. So I just really feel that all of that experience has been perfect to land me here and an opportunity to just reach out to our community partners and see how we can make a difference.
I think a lot of people probably don't know that DTE Energy Foundation is the largest foundation in the state. Did I have that right?
Yes, we are one of the largest corporate foundations in the state.
All right.
Yeah.
Give us some comparison of how much money you've been doling out, how much that has increased or decreased as we look at the revitalization going on, not just here in Detroit, but across our state.
Yeah, sure. So last year we increased our philanthropy by about 20%. We increased our specific focus in education and employment by 40%. We're giving between $18 and $20 million per year. We'll invest about another $18.5 million this year here in the state with our nonprofit partners. And it's been a great investment by our company to really reach out to our nonprofit partners and see how we can best invest that philanthropy.
So when you sit down with that DTE Energy leadership team and you sort of map out your goals,
yeah.
What's the goal of the foundation?
That's a great question. You know, when I came into the organization earlier this year, one of the first things I really wanted to get clear on is, how do we figure out where the best investment is? Mm-hmm. So we sat down with the key members of our team and we said, what do we want to invest in?
Because you want your money to have an impact.
That's right. And you know, you can get a lot of asks over the course of the weeks and the months, and you want to be clear around what is a yes and what is a no.
Sure.
So we created a really clear giving strategy, and it's really clear in 6 key areas. We support arts and culture. We really believe that arts and culture and giving all people opportunities to be exposed to different arts and culture is important. We're clearly invested in basic human needs, food, shelter, and clothing. Community transformation is our 3rd priority. When you look at the great things that are happening here in Detroit and across our state, down in southeastern Michigan, in the Thumb, over in Muskegon and Grand Rapids, and throughout the west side of the state, and including the Upper Peninsula, helping to support those nonprofits that can help with the community transformation is huge for us. And then we're a utility, we're an energy company, and we're very focused on our environment. So our environmental philanthropy is around air, land, and water, and assuring our wildlife is well taken care of. And then we also work on organizations that help with economic progress. And then the largest one that I already mentioned is education and employment. I mean, we want to continue this momentum to reduce the unemployment rate and reach out to young people and young adults and see what the barriers are to getting into educational opportunities or work environments. And we've got a huge investment in that.
I know that when I sat down with your CEO, Jerry Anderson, a few months back, he talked about the Randolph School in Detroit and the amount of money and time and effort that DTE has put into that because of the trades and because of really, let's say, the mandate kind of by city council and others that as Little Caesars and all these other places are doing all this building around here. They've got this 51% that they're kind of looking at all the time, and they go out and say, but we're trying to fill it, but we don't necessarily have the students that have the skills.
Right. I was in a meeting recently, and someone made the comment that, well, smart people go to college, and people that aren't so smart go into skilled trade. And it was just so interesting to me, because that is so far from the truth. It takes so much intelligence and commitment to really get into the skilled trades and make a difference, regardless of whether it's mechanical, electrical work, carpentry. We need all those roles, and our men and women and young people across the state that are good at really working in that environment we have phenomenal opportunities everywhere, really, for skilled trades. And the work at Randolph is a great example of that really started with a dream and a focus. It took some investment by DTE and others, and we had 100 students that came out of that program last year. We expect to have 300 this year.
Wow.
And that's going to grow. I mean, we're looking at other organizations to partner with to continue that. Breithoff is a great example of that. I mean, I think it really is true that if we build the opportunities, they will come, and Randolph is just the start.
All right, we need to take a little break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the arts and what we're doing here in terms of the environment at Beacon Park, which has gotten a tremendous amount of attention. We'll be right back with Lynette Dowler. We hope you stay with us. And welcome back to Spotlight down here at the Cube, our home away from home, but our downtown home. And Lynette Dowler, she is the president of the DTE Energy Foundation. She's our guest today on Spotlight. Beacon Park, in the backdrop of campus marshes over here, the plans were just announced for the West Riverfront. We've seen so many changes in the last 30 years along the riverfront. It's almost like a friendly battle going on from these major corporations to say, okay, this is sort of our little niche here. And we think we can do it a little better than you guys over there. Not in mean competition, but in friendly competition, correct?
Right. Absolutely. I almost think that we're starting to create a real block party in the city. And when you think about that, you say, well, who's at that end of the block and what do they have going on? That's a whole bunch of fun and brings all people together. Well, what's happened down at your end of the block? Okay, at our end, we've got DTE Energy's Beacon Park, and there is programming at Beacon Park for all ages. I bring my grandkids down, I bring my in-laws down, I bring my friends down. I mean, there's something to do at Beacon Park or any of the parks that here in the city, and it's just really neat to watch what's happening.
What do you say, Ms. Dowler, to people who maybe haven't been downtown and midtown in years, still remember those old stories about Detroit that maybe made them fearful of it? You're down here all the time. You're not just here, you're in downtown Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo and all across the state and other states. What message would you say to them?
I would say just try it. And I would also say, you probably know someone that works in the city or lives in the city. Give them a call and ask them to bring you down to the city and show you all of the great things that are happening. I think until people actually come out here and experience the fun, the safety, just the opportunities, I would just say those that haven't been around in a while, you're going to be surprised, and you're going to be surprised in a great way.
We just recently had an international robotics competition smack dab in the middle of downtown. DTE Energy has been very involved in the whole robotics venture. Why?
Well, we really believe that you have to start young in getting people interested in STEM, in the science, technology, engineering, math, and first robotics just plays within that wheelhouse. DTE Energy Foundation hosted the first robotics championship here this year, just here in April, and we'll be hosting that for the next several years here in Detroit. And to think that we brought about 40,000 people to our great city to not only participate and compete in FIRST Robotics, but to experience the city. All of the parks have been activated, and the city was just vibrant throughout the whole FIRST Robotics Championship.
And of course, we have engineers galore in this city, and because of the auto industry, it's only a natural that we be on the cutting edge of anything dealing with STEM.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you've never been to a FIRST Robotics competition, people should go, because sometimes you think about engineering and science and technology and you don't necessarily think about enthusiasm and a whole bunch of fun. Yeah. FIRST Robotics is all about that.
There's signature events. One of them our station is very involved in. That's the tree lighting every holiday period on the campus marshes. That's one of those events that I think people remember for years to come. You take your kids to it, you take your grandkids to it, but it's also something that that puts a signature on a city that makes it stand out.
It really is, and DTE Energy Foundation has been a proud sponsor of the tree lighting for many, many years. And our city and our state is founded on tradition. And great tradition. And I think the tree lighting is just a beautiful example of that as we go into the holiday season every year.
What do you think the economic benefit of all of this will be, the investing that you're doing in all of these different communities?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I've looked at a lot of the numbers that we start to calculate around economic progress and the impact of our growing economy here in Michigan and the work that we're doing through our foundation to invest in our nonprofits. I think that when you think about all of the dollars and the economic growth, I think we've only started to hit the cusp of really where it's going to go. When you hear people in other states talking about considering moving to the city of Detroit or surrounding areas, or coming to Michigan or coming back to Michigan, I don't know how you put a dollar amount on that. I mean, when I think about years ago when I said I was from Michigan and I worked in Detroit, you know, it usually wasn't met with bright eyes and smiles. Now when I tell people when I'm out of state that I work in Detroit and I'm from the state of Michigan, people are curious and they've heard a lot about it. And you know, I don't know how you put a value on that, to be frank.
You have become very successful. You're a role model to many people, men and women, but particularly I think to a lot of women who say, okay, she broke the glass ceiling in corporate America. I can do the same. What advice would you give to young females out there trying to figure out how to make it in what can be a dog-eat-dog world? Yeah,
the first thing I would say is be yourself. Just keep going. Don't be afraid of the next challenge. Be bold. And you know, I consistently tell my daughter, you're beautiful, you're brilliant, and you can be anything that you want to be. And I would say that to, you know, any young woman coming through the ranks in corporate America or in the skilled trades. You're bold, you're beautiful, and you can be anything that you want to be. There are no limits.
Final question. 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, what impact do you want DTE to have on this state, and what do you think will be the overall impact, and what kind of state do you envision we hopefully will have?
Yeah, when I think about our future, I'll answer the question about DTE Energy first.
Okay.
They are a good corporate citizen. They're not just a great, reliable energy company. DTE Energy, they're a good corporate citizen. That would be my hope for DTE Energy. And then for our state, you know, we are Pure Michigan. And when we talk about the Pure Michigan brand, you know, I want that to be a lasting impression on people that this is a good, safe, fun, progressive place to be.
All right. Lynette Dollar, thank you so much for coming in. All right. Always good talking to you, and best of luck. And coming up, we'll talk to Pamela Alexander about the 20th, yes, the 20th anniversary of the Ford Freedom Awards. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Spotlight. Joining me now is someone I've known for longer than either one of us care to admit, so we won't say how long.
No, we're not going to say how long.
Pamela Alexander with Ford Motor Company Fund. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us here, having me here.
All right, 20-year anniversary of Ford Freedom Awards. What's on tap?
You know, this year, Chuck, and thank you for having me on, because I know you've been such an important part of Ford Freedom Awards over the years. And
yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. This year we are celebrating Black Girl Magic. The activists, the heroes, the entrepreneurs, all that makes Black Girl Magic, Black Girl Magic. We are celebrating our honoree this year posthumously is Dr. Dorothy Irene Height.
Okay.
This is the first time.
I remember when she was the scholar.
This is the first time in the history of the Freedom Awards that a previous scholar is now an honoree.
Is that right?
It's the first time.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Absolutely, you know.
Right. So her name will go into the floor of the African American
right.
History Museum.
Absolutely, into the ring of genealogy. And of course, you know her story. She was part of Dr. King's inner circle, helped plan the March on Washington. Just an amazing woman who played such a leadership role in moving human rights and civil rights forward.
I always remember that historic picture of everybody in the White House in the Oval Office, all the civil rights leaders, and she was the only woman standing up there, and it's like, okay, guys, move over, because I'm here.
Absolutely, and she used to tell a story about how sometimes when they took pictures, she found that if she stood on the end, when the picture was printed, they'd crop her out.
Wow.
So she always said, both literally and figuratively, when you're a woman, you have to put yourself in the center of the picture. So she learned to wait until the end, and then she'd jump in the middle of the picture. So that's why that one picture looks like that, where she's right in the middle, because she didn't want to be cropped out literally or figuratively. Right. So we're celebrating her achievements, what she did for our country, but we're celebrating Black Girl Magic, so we're also celebrating young entrepreneurs and a local teen who's doing some amazing things in terms of helping her community and as a business. So it's just going to be a great
she does
program.
Something with candles?
Yes, Asia Newsom. She started a candle business when she was 5. She now has a full business that has, I think, up to $100,000 in revenues. She has people that she's training to be entrepreneurs. Keep in mind, she's still a teenager.
Oh my goodness.
And part of her proceeds go to support the homeless. So she's an entrepreneur who's also helping her community. I mean, what an amazing story, what she's doing as a teenager.
Right, she takes the word allowance to a whole nother level.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, very good. And as you look back, 20 years, I mean, that's a long period of time.
Yes, it is.
And you've honored some outstanding African Americans. What do you hope the community has gotten out of this?
You know, this is a program, first of all, it's a benefit for the right? The Ford Freedom Awards has a goal of raising money for the right. All the sponsorship dollars that come in through sponsors and any tickets that are sold go directly to the right. So first and foremost, it's supporting the Charles H. Wright Museum, which is so important to our community. But also, we hope that people have come away with an appreciation for the amazing contributions that have been made. Everything from our Mayor Coleman Young to John Lewis, who was a scholar, to Mae Jemison, who's an astronaut, through the educational programs, as you know, which reach thousands of students each year, both in terms of the educational materials that go out throughout the state, but also the Scholars Lecture. In the morning, it's about, of course, the adults have the installation and we'll have youth there, but in the morning, there will be 2,000 students at the Opera House hearing from Black Girl Magic heroes and sheroes, I guess I should say.
And this is a way, I mean, I've watched through the years these young people who come in and they get exposed to these legendary figures who have done extraordinary things with their career. And it lets them know that if I can do it, you can do it, because so many of them came from such very humble beginnings.
Oh, absolutely.
And yet they overcame all kind of obstacles to be able to reach the very top of their professions. And you've exposed them to a wide range of professions. It wasn't just doctors and lawyers. It was architects, it was engineers, it was just all kinds of people.
Across the board. You know the saying, if you can see it, you can be it. You know, so a lot of what we're trying to do, especially with the youth and the educational piece of this, is to do exactly what you were just talking about, to expose young people to the options that Floyd Norman last year. You know, a cartoonist for Disney. Wasn't that wonderful watching him draw?
He drew his story before that.
Never would have known, you know. So there might have been 1 or 2 or even more students in there going, wow, I never thought that that was something that I could do, or I've never seen someone who looks like me in that field.
Yeah. All right, let me flip it around. Ford has always had a big footprint, not just on this city and not just on this state, not just on this country, but obviously a global corporation. What does Ford get out of this?
You know, for us, and you're right, we do have a big footprint, especially here where we live. This community is so very important to Ford. We look at this as an investment in the future, an investment in youth, but we also, as you know, celebrate history. We love to celebrate the achievements of amazing African Americans, Americans, people around the world who have done the great things. So we like to build awareness. We like to bring communities together. It's about bringing people together to celebrate all that is good and also to educate, so that people like Floyd Norman that maybe someone hadn't heard of before, they didn't know there was an African American man who'd been drawing Mickey Mouse for years,
Right.
To bring them into the spotlight, to celebrate their contributions.
You mentioned earlier that this is a fundraiser for the Charles H.
Right.
Wright Museum of African American History, a fixture in this community.
Absolutely.
It's the global village, I like to say, because, well, there's always
Yeah.
something going on inside there,
yes.
and all people have to do is say, at the Wright Museum, and everybody knows what you're
Exactly what it
talking
is.
about. But it's a learning place. It's about going there and being exposed to the culture of African Americans.
Absolutely. It's and you're right, whenever I'm there, there are just so many school groups that are in there, and people all ages and backgrounds, and it's, as you know, 53 years I think now with the Right here.
Wow, wow, yeah, I guess it has been.
Was the largest, now with the Smithsonian opening, the second largest museum in the world dedicated to African American history. So it's a tremendous treasure for us to have here in Detroit, and we're really excited to support it and to highlight the work that they're doing in the educational programs and the fixture really that is, not just for the African American community, because when you walk into the museum there are people from all backgrounds who are there, but for its contribution to our entire community.
Okay, final question. You always have to try to top yourself. Any idea what's on tap for the 21st, or too soon to even think about it?
We always try to get through this year's. We always
Yeah.
try to get through this year's, especially, and one thing I should mention is Jessica O. Matthews,
Yes.
who's the scholar this year. Black Girl Magic, at 19 invented a soccer ball that when you play with it helps to generate electricity. Yes, she has several patents or patents pending, and she has an entrepreneurial spirit and a business that basically looks at ways of harnessing energy from human activity to produce energy. And she's doing work in Africa and things like that, so I wanted to make sure I mentioned her. Jessica
cool.
Matthews, she will be speaking as well as Asia to the 2,000 or so students that will be at the Opera House in the morning.
All right.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
We've
Stay
always
tuned.
Ford always has some magic up our sleeve of all types, as you know.
All right,
types.
no doubt about that. Pamela, thank you
you.
so much for coming in. Always a pleasure seeing you, and good luck to you and Ford, and to your family as well. You got
Yours
some
as well.
graduates coming out.
Yes, congratulations on the wedding.
All
Yeah,
right,
it's exciting.
thank you so much.
Okay.
And we'll be back with some important community messages right after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to Spotlight. And finally today, some information about an important community outreach program that we're involved in here at Channel 7 that we want you, the public, to also partake in. We want your input as part of our local news advisor community. Please go to our website at WXYZ.com, listen to our station editorial, and sign up. Don't forget the 2018 Annual Thank You Awards. It will be at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History on May the 16th. And finally today, happy Mother's Day to all of the wonderful mothers out there. I'm Chuck Stokes. We'll be back next week with more newsmakers in the spotlight. We hope you have a great week.